Right, I am actually very interested to talk about this device right over here, the Steam Deck OLED, and I have the 512 gigabytes version. And if you guys are wondering why did I get this one, I'm going to answer that. I'm actually going to try to answer if you want to get the Steam Deck OLED or if you want to get the ROG Ally X. Now, by any means, this is not a gaming channel, and it's a crypto channel. My members are going to think, what is this guy doing? What is going on in here? All of a sudden this guy just changed profession. But the thing is that I am a big fan of gaming, and I enjoy gaming a lot when I was a kid. Nowadays I'm kind of busy, but we're going to get into that. I'm going to get why did I get back into gaming, and this is the device that actually brought me back into gaming. So a little bit of a brief history is that I have owned almost all consoles, PlayStation console. I've played PS1, PS2, PS3, PS4. You're not gonna believe this, but I haven't played PS5 ever until this very day. But I kind of plan to do that in the future, or maybe I just don't need to do that because now I have the OLED. This bad boy. Now, I have talked about all the consoles, and speaking about all the consoles, I've had PSP. I remember when I was a kid and I walked into the mall and I saw PSP for the first time. There were some few guys right over there. They were standing and they were playing PSP. So they were advertising PSP. You could actually go and play for absolutely free. And that was just a trial so that people may get interested in buying the console itself. And actually, it sold a lot. PSP was revolutionary. I was amazed how you just have a small screen, you take it and you go outside there and you play whenever you want to play. The second version of a portable device was PS Vita. PS Vita was an LED screen and it had much better graphic. It's almost like you upgrading from a PlayStation 2 all of a sudden to a PlayStation 3, right? From that graphic to this graphic, from PSP to PS Vita, right? PS2 to PS3. That's how the upgrade really was. And it was a big upgrade. It was a big jump, especially with introduction of the Spider-Man games, the God of War games, and so many other games that were actually pretty good and they had better graphics. Speaking of Vita, and the reason why I'm telling you this, bear with me because I want to tell you this. That's exactly that kind of paved the path for me to come to Steam Deck. So I have to tell you about the Vita. The PlayStation Vita, back in the days, I didn't know what an LED screen really was, and I was lucky to get the LED version of the Vita. It was an amazing screen. You enjoyed playing the games. You see, it comes down to the experience, and I'm going to emphasize on experience a lot because I've done UI UX. If anyone has done user designing or they know how to make phone design and website design, you guys know how much user experience is important. Design itself is one thing and the experience is another thing. These are two things that if you consider both of these things, you make something that is timeless, that is awesome. People may want to go back and use it over and over again. And that's what the Vita did. Vita was the first one to actually introduce a virtual game reality. They had these cards which you can use your camera to scan the cards and you can play a virtual reality game. And a simple console UI interface. Just like on the Steam Deck, you have the Steam UI, right? You have the Steam operating system and it's more like a console. That's exactly what was on the PS Vita. And most importantly was when you enter the game, you can enter the game in such a way that if you want to leave, if you're in a hurry, my mom used to send me to buy something from a shopkeeper, right? Turn off the game, just switch it into sleep mode, go to the shopkeeper, get something back, turn on just the button, and you're right back into the game. You don't have to reboot anything, you don't have to turn off anything, you don't have to exit the game. And my game, I never exit out of the game ever on a Vita. Keep one thing in mind, there is nothing like perfection. You're never going to have something that is absolutely perfect, ever. So don't be judgmental with how I'm going to introduce the Steam Deck to some of you. When I had the PlayStation 4 and I used to sit in front of a TV all the time, I don't want to do that, right? I don't want to be like, for example, it's winters. It's really, really cold sometimes. I just want to sneak in under the blanket and actually play a game. I cannot do that when I have the PlayStation 4. because playing PlayStation 4, 3, or even the PS5 is almost like a discipline. You have to sit down on a chair at one place every single time, look at the TV, and then you have to keep playing the game, right? With the Steam Deck, you have the ability to lay down on the couch. You can lay down on your back, however you want to do these things. And more importantly, go to the park, play in the park if you want to play in the park. You want to go to a cafe shop, you can do that. Plus, you can do the most basic things. And I'm also going to talk about these things right now. So let's talk about the specification of Steam Deck and my experience so far with it. My impressions for the first time when I had the Steam Deck was that this is a big device coming from a PlayStation Vita. And I'm going to be honest with you about one thing of the Steam Deck from the PlayStation Vita. You cannot put this guy in your pockets ever. Vita, even when I had the cover, like when I had the case, whatever this is, the case, the cover, was that I could actually put it in my pockets, in my jeans pocket, but this one, no, you cannot. It's actually more like a tablet and a phone size, and it's something known as phablet. It's a combination of a phone size and a tablet size. It's not as big as the tablet. It is not as small as a phone either, but it's kind of like in the middle. It's like a fusion of the phone and the tablet, and that's why it's known as the phablet. But holding the console in your hand feels good, okay? The grip is amazing. I don't know if you can see how this looks right over here, but you got that thing on the side, right? You have the valve, and you also have some few buttons over here. Now this is a fan. You have the fan at the back. You have the fan at the top. You have two volume buttons in there. You have this one power button, the USB Type-C, and also the rest is just the very normal joysticks that you pretty much have. And speaking about putting it in your pocket, you can actually try to go on and put this in your pocket, but when you squeeze it inside your pocket, you can damage the joystick, or even worse, you can actually squeeze the screen in such a way that it's going to be hard for you to not damage the screen. The screen can actually get damaged as well. Speaking about the damaging, the repairing of this thing is going to be very difficult, especially where I live in. It depends on which country you guys are. If you have Valve support and the people who actually fix Steam Deck, that's okay. But at least where I live, I know for sure if this thing actually gets messed up, it's going to be hard for me to actually fix it from anyone ever, because people don't use this. It's not a popular device at all where I live in. Now let's talk about the X factor for Steam Deck, and that is playing games on this thing. I have been playing games, and especially the games that are optimized for the Steam Deck are amazing, okay? To say, it doesn't matter if it's 30 GB, 100 GB, 120 GB, or whatever. You have the Red Dead Redemption 2 that is actually playing really good on the Steam Deck, and you also have, for example, I played Miles Morales, Spider-Man. It was an amazing experience. I didn't have any lag even when I was having the combat, even when I was swinging through. The cinematic was amazing. Again, the screen, the deep blacks. As I told you before, I'm coming from PlayStation Vita. I know what an LED really is, because during that time, the PlayStation guys, they actually released an LCD version of the Vita, and when I saw the pictures on the internet of how that looks, I was like, no way. But the difference was, it was a white device compared to a black device. So people who wanted to have a device that is more beautiful, just to look good, they could get the white version, but the screen was a drawback, right? So the screen wasn't really that great, which brings me to how the ROG Ally X can be compared to what the Steam Deck really is. Now, don't get me wrong. I can tell you this. The ROG Ally X is definitely a good device. The Legion Go could be a good device. But let's tone down a little bit more deeper. Let's get into the micro details of how these are different and what made me kind of get the Steam Deck and instead of not getting the ROG Ally X. The first thing that I thought is I'm going to be spending a lot of time playing games on this device. And if I'm going to play games, if I'm going to continuously look at the screen for 1 hour, 30 minutes, 2 hours, however time I'm going to be playing the game on a device, I need a console that I'm going to feel good about. I'm going to look at the visuals. I'm going to look at the colors, the contrast, everything of a game, and actually have a solid experience. And when I thought about it over and over again, I've seen a lot of videos on ROG Ally as well. I've seen a lot of videos on the Steam Deck. Nothing really beats an LED screen. Nothing. I repeat, nothing. Not even the ROG Ally. I'm not even saying that the ROG Ally doesn't have a good screen. It is a good screen, but this is an excellent screen. There's a difference. If you have never been a gamer, if you've never actually used an LED before, and you start to play with the ROG Ally, no issues, right? You're gonna get a better performance, by the way, because the ROG Ally has more I think it's more like performance. They have the Z1 Extreme, and you're gonna have a little bit of more performances. But the difference in the performances here doesn't really cut the deal for me. I'm not gonna say that this the ROG Ally is so damn good that I'm not gonna get a Steam Deck for starters. And what I mean by this, what I mean to say here is that if you're getting 65 FPS on a Steam Deck, you're still gonna get 40 FPS on this one, and it's not gonna be a very great noticeable difference. But when it comes to the heaviest game, that's where you're gonna have differences. So if you're strict on performance, you really need a very nice, good, solid performance. ROG Ally is actually the first one you have to consider, even though you're not going to get the LED screen. Because when I played Spider-Man 2 on this thing, it lagged a lot. It lagged a lot until they don't actually optimize for the deck. That's going to be good. But if you play on the ROG Ally, you're going to actually be able to play on the medium settings, and it's going to run pretty fine. But when you play this one on the Steam Deck, it's actually not going to do that great. But any other game that has been optimized for the Steam Deck, you can really play it pretty well without any problems at all. Speaking about the game performance, I do have a game running which I kind of like press this power button and I kind of like put it into a sleep mode. I'm gonna press the power button again, tuck, right? So let's see how the screen looks. Back into the game, right? You just went outside, you came back, you pressed the button, you're right back into the game. No lags, right? Look at that. However responsive you want it to be.
They're like works of art that can also get you high.
You're getting a performance out there. You can see it doesn't really lag. Whatever you want to do to this, the games that are optimized, you can play them however you want to play on this device. And that's the best thing. I had Miles Morales. I completed this game, Miles Morales, in maybe 2 days or 3 days. But if I was going to play that one on the PlayStation 4, it takes me much more days. It's like I don't feel turning on a console. So think about this scenario. It's the same with the ROG Ally, it's the same with the Legion Go. Why do I say with the Legion Go and the ROG Ally? Because both of them are Windows device. When you look at Windows device, you have to boot into the game. You have to load the game again. And you have to do that 2 to 3 minutes wait and then get into the game and then continue from where you left off. Maybe you're going to start from the last checkpoint. You have to play a little bit more again, like 5 minutes more. So you're looking at 5 to 8, 10 minutes until you don't really get back into the game. But for Steam Deck, it's not like that. As I said, it's off again. Press the button. It turns on, right? It's turning on. You're back into the game. You continue just where you left off. You can turn it off for 12 hours and get back into the game after 12 hours. Another thing is going to be the Steam Deck's, I don't know what you call this. There's a word for that one, but I'm going to say the buttons, right? The experience of using all these buttons. Let's get out of the game department and let's actually get into the desktop mode department. And let's talk about the operating system that it has, which is Linux. And this is a very small, tiny details I'm going to tell you that is going to make a lot of sense. Number one, when I was browsing Firefox or Google Chrome to download some Quack games, well, that one was a good experience when I was browsing around. Why? The back buttons in here, these are, you can actually press these back buttons to scroll up and down, right? So whenever you want to scroll down, you just press the button. You press the button. Another thing is you can also use these side trackpads, and they have a haptic feedback, by the way. And you can actually have this, and they actually kind of vibrate as well, and it feels nice. The mouse, it's like a mouse, it's like a trackpad, and it's super, super good. and then you have the touchscreen as well. So if you, for example, don't want to take the mouse or drag the mouse from point A to point B, and you kind of want to get into an action very, very quick, you just tap the screen and you continue to browse by touching the screen as well. Even the buttons in here, the R2 and the L2, this is for the right click, this is for the left click as well. You can use those ones. So it gives you just a lot of options to navigate around, which makes it so easy to use a browser on this thing. But when you have something like ROG Ally, you're not having that mouse. You're not having that experience. As I said, user experience is important, because if you had a ROG Ally X and a Steam Deck, you will find yourself coming back into the Steam Deck again and again because it has a good experience when you use it. Even more on this one, on the device, on the desktop part of things, a lot of people say we need Windows because we can download Windows game and install Windows game. Why do we have to get the Steam Deck? I've heard a lot of people on the internet actually talking about this. Well, you can still get Windows game on this one, but the extra step is what you have to learn. There are some few extra steps when it comes down to Steam Deck that you have to get into. Red Dead Redemption, if you want to get the Quack version of those, you still have to follow some extra step in order for you to get it running. But hey, when you learn that, it's easy from there. Every other single game is the same step. So it's going to take you 5 to 6 more minutes to learn some new things on how to install games on this device. And then you pretty much use the very same process for every single game. If you are considering to buy Steam Deck for workstation, don't do that, right? I will even say, I don't know about the ROG Ally X, but I don't think if the ROG Ally X is going to be the best workstation either, but it's going to be a little bit more better than the Steam Deck in terms of performing. So what I'm trying to say here is, you might think, okay, let me just have my laptop and get the Steam Deck if I want to do a CapCut or an Adobe Premiere video editing, 4K editing and stuff like that. Don't do that. You can get it for some basic stuff. And what I'm saying by basic is that, yes, you can screen record if you want to screen record on this device, but still it does not really mean you're going to record like 4K videos which are 1 hour long and try to do some very heavy editing on this thing. You're not going to be able to do that. It's not that powerful just yet. Maybe the second version that is going to come out, then who knows, we can actually have much better chipset and you can handle that performances or not. So by basic, you can do some browsing, that's quite possible. You can do some text editing, that's actually quite possible, and some few other things that are basic. You get the point, right? And as I said from the beginning of the video, nothing is perfect, okay? Everyone have their own checks. Everyone have their own thoughts on what they want to do with gaming, okay? Some people want to experience game on a big device, right? You want to have a gaming chair, you want to have huge studio, you want to have lights behind you, behind your room, you want to have a big TV monitor for you to experience game to its fullest, you want to have the best graphic out there, 4K graphics, 120 hertz refresh rate. Man, it's not going to happen on Steam Deck. It's not going to happen on Steam Deck. As I'm saying, judge this as a device that is portable, that is almost like a phone, right? So you're not going to get that performance that you're thinking, which is the highest of the highest, even on the ROG Ally X ever. So if you're thinking that, yes, I need a bigger version, I want to see all the characters in their big mode, no, you're not going to get that on the Steam Deck, right? There's no perfection on that one. Some people are very strict on performance. They don't want lag, they don't want stuttering in the middle of the game. And maybe when it comes to the bigger titles, maybe the Steam Deck is not for you. And if you want to play those bigger titles, the ROG Ally X is actually there. It's going to give you much more better frame rate whenever you play the game, because the Steam Deck, as I said before, Spider-Man 2 is a PS5 game, heavy game, and it's still not optimized just yet. But maybe if you do play that one on the ROG Ally X, you have better frame rate coming in and you can play that on the medium settings, but you still won't be able to play at the very, very high-end performance or the best high-end graphic quality even on the ROG Ally X. These are portable devices, and it's a big win for me that you're still having all those games all those emulated PS3 games and even titles that are like 30 GB, 40 GB when you download them, and they run so good on the Steam Deck that you just don't need anything else, right? But what really made me want to close the deal? What made me want to close the deal for the Steam Deck instead of all these other devices was that Valve has a very good support, right? And it has an active community. Any game that you want, you can check on the internet. There's a lot of guidance going on for the Steam Deck. And that's one thing that I actually like about the Steam Deck. Second one is Linux is not as bad as people think. Linux is a lightweight operating system. It's not as heavy when you install on a device. It's light. If you have learned about computer engineering or you know a little bit about operating system, you will understand what I'm trying to say in here. Consider this. Google.com loads up very quickly. Facebook.com is a little bit heavy on the scale because it has more development. It's not lightweight. That's exactly what I'm trying to portray here. ROG Ally X is heavy because of the Windows. Windows is actually heavy, but Linux is not really that heavy. And lastly is of course the price. That's the turning point for me. So for example, in my country, I bought the Steam Deck for 170,000, right? And the ROG Ally X was 270,000. So I thought if the ROG Ally X is almost like an 85, a solid 85, and this is like a solid 75, for that price difference, I'm gonna get it. I can still extend the memories. I can buy an SD card, I can install an SSD later on. That's not an issue. I can always upgrade to that in the future. So for me, that was pretty much it. This is what I wanted. That's where I wanted to kind of step in. There are some few games I know I'm not going to be able to play on the Steam Deck, but let's think about it. Where I cannot play like some few titles, like top 5, top 7% of those titles which I cannot play, at least I'm going to be playing 90 to 93% of the games that I will actually enjoy playing, and they will run so good on an LED device, which is a 512 GB. And one more thing is about 1 terabyte screen, which is good out there in the sunlight and stuff like that. Well, honestly, I think that according even to a lot of sources is that the 512 GB version glossy screen is really, really good, right? And I personally do not go under the sunlight and play under the sunlight at all. So if you're a guy who wants to play under the sunlight all the time, then maybe go for the 1 terabyte. That's not an issue, but the 512 GB is not bad. You're not going to be installing and playing 30 games in one time. Maybe for some people 1 terabyte is going to be a big deal. Again, it's just a preference. So if you want to extend, you can still buy the 512 GB and actually extend by buying an SSD or a memory card. You can do that if you want to extend and still get the glossy screen. Even when you're inside the room and there are lights all over the place, it's fine. It's not a big deal. I have lights in my room and I play under the lights. It's not a big deal. I haven't noticed any big difference in this one whatsoever. So I think I have mentioned a lot of stuff that can actually clear what you guys want to know about the Steam Deck, and you guys have to choose if the Steam Deck suits you or the ROG Ally X suits you. If you're very strict on the performance, you need to play every single game, go for the ROG Ally X. You're not going to get an LED screen, but it's not a bad screen. It's a 1080p screen, still a good screen, decent screen, but you're going to get the performance that you need. If you still need a good screen and a lot of titles that are actually going to be playable with a good experience, you have the Steam Deck, and it's definitely there. It's definitely going to be something you're going to love. I'm going to play this maybe for the next 1 year, and as soon as Steam Deck 2 comes out, we're going to see how that is going to be. And finally, with the case, I'm going to talk just one last comment about this case. If the Steam Deck team is watching the video, maybe I could actually talk about it just a little bit. So the case is pretty compact, right? Whenever you have the cover, right, the case in here, you still have to put it on a laptop bag. I'm still going to put it on a laptop bag or a backpack in order for me to take it to another place if I want to play outside of my room. As I said before, you're not going to fit the LED, version of Steam Deck into your pockets ever. But one comment that I can do is, do you see on the side in here, you can install something like a strap holder in here, and you can kind of, put the strap and carry the whole game itself, and that would be actually much better instead of me taking a backpack whenever I want to take the Steam Deck outside there. Maybe install another place with a zipper at the back. You still have a lot of space in here to put a charger in there, and a little bit of a storage to put in some more like carryable small devices like the SD card as well, if you want to do that. And one more thing as well is, if you guys want to play on a bigger screen, you can still buy a deck. You can use a deck. You can have a 4K screen with 120 hertz refresh rate screen, even a TV which have VRR as well, and you can connect the deck with your screen, and then you can actually play on a bigger screen if you want to do that, which is pretty awesome. So that's all for the video, and you guys make a wise decision.